Shawty texting me, had to tell her it's not that deep. It's not that deep. She come with me, she roll with me, her nails on fleek. Nails on fleek. It's not that deep. It's not that deep. It's not that deep. It's not that deep. It's not that deep.
It's not that deep. Your body, keep it cool, please.
Before we jump in, make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel. It takes you 2 seconds. Do it now.
And click the bell. Yes, people, yes, people, yes, people. Welcome back to the We Talk Football podcast. Back like we never left. And I'm back with my guy, Quakes. How you doing, man?
I'm all good, mate. I'm all good. How you doing?
I'm fantastic. The manager merry-go-round has started well and truly in the Premier League. Rafa's out. It was a job that arguably he should never have taken, but he is out the exit door. And there's a number of managers that are being linked with this Everton job, Quakes. What do you think, man?
Well, first of all, touching on Rafa, I was actually one of the minority of people that thought this might actually work. I thought he still had the magic. He's still a top manager. He'll still, despite the opposition of Everton fans, he'll be able to go in there and do a job. Obviously, his family still live in Merseyside, but it just didn't work out. The fans never really embraced him. You can understand that. Obviously, he was the manager for their biggest rivals for a number of years. And the loss to Norwich, a Norwich side who had lost 6 consecutive games. And they came to, or Everton travelled to Carrow Road and lost 2-1 there. It was a final nail in the coffin for Rafa Benitez. So I don't know if we're going to see him in the Premier League again. I think that generation manager are kind of dying out. Obviously, managers in the pomp in the mid-2000s, Mourinho, the Rafas, they were going at it back to back or head to head. And it seems like they're coming to the end of their cycle. We see Mourinho kind of struggling over in Italy. So I don't think we'll see Rafa again on these shores. Although I was talking to some Newcastle fans and they wouldn't be opposed if they get rid of Eddie Howe to bring Rafa back. So never say never, but I think he might be done over in England. In terms of Everton and where they go from here, there's a host of options and a host of interesting options as well. You've got people touting the name Duncan Ferguson. Obviously, he's already there established. He's an Everton legend. Maybe bring a bit of character back to this Everton side. We've seen Wayne Rooney linked again, a former Everton player, someone who's doing very, very well. I know Derby at the foot of the Championship table, but that's because of other circumstances or factors. But he's done a great job with Derby so far. And those are maybe the 2 fan favourite picks. But if you look at the favourites with the bookies in terms of the job, it's Roberto Martinez, a man who used to manage Everton before he moved on to manage the Belgium national team. He's odds-on favourite for it, which would be an incredible comeback and return. We know how successful he's been with Belgium. He's managed them during their golden generation. And to see him return to club football would be a massive shock. But again, I think he could do a job with this current Everton team in terms of how they're currently constructed.
Yeah, I totally agree. I look at the Everton side, though, and it's an odd side, really, because they've got a good team and you can't really see why they're performing the way they are. I know they've obviously not spent loads, but even the players that they brought in, performed very well for them in the early stages of the season. Demarai Gray was like a couple of million. Andros Townsend on a free. These players came in and were performing for them, and it's just kind of gone. I know they haven't had injuries. I know that their injuries haven't been favourable to them. They've lost Dominic Calvert-Lewin for large portions of the season, but ultimately their squad is so much better than where they are in the league, and the players haven't been performing. It's an odd one, with Rafa going. I know obviously he's not just a Liverpool manager, like you said, he's a Liverpool legend. He won the Champions League with them. He's an icon to a lot of Liverpool fans and they'll always love him for that. But he's even the Luca Digne, scenario, he comes in for Aston Villa on the weekend, plays a blinder, could he have not played? Like there were games where he was playing Seamus Coleman on the left-hand side instead, and he's got Digne on the bench and stuff. And it's just a weird dynamic there. But for me, I know you said about obviously Roberto Martinez being the favourite. For me, I like seeing young managers being given a chance. Eddie Howe, I want to see Eddie Howe given a chance at Newcastle. Like he's finally been given essentially the keys to the kingdom after he'd done a great job at Bournemouth for so many years. So I want to see him given like a prolonged run at Newcastle, even if they get relegated. And I want to see young managers given a chance at Everton. And one guy that's absolutely, smashing it at Derby. And like you said, although the table isn't suggesting that, that's because of the penalties they've received as a result. The points deductions. I think I saw a statistic like without the points deductions, I think Derby, their squad would be like 11th in the Championship right now. The weekend, the amount of points they've been deducted this year, and they're not even the bottom of the Championship. So they're doing well. Wayne Rooney, he isn't just I know like Frank Lampard's been linked with this. Frank Lampard, obviously an English legend, but doesn't know. But Everton. Wayne Rooney, he grew up, he came through the Everton system. He went back there at the end of his career. It's almost like a romance story about it. If he went in there, that he'd probably have some sort of active relationship with Duncan Ferguson as well. So things probably wouldn't have to change too much from a coaching perspective. The most likely candidate for me is probably Duncan Ferguson, but I would love to see Wayne Rooney given a chance at, his boyhood club, really.
Yeah, no, I feel like Rooney would be, for football romanticists, it would be a great story to see him go back and manage Everton and maybe take them to former glories. I feel like just taking over midway through the season, I'd caution that, just because Everton are on the slide at the moment. Like you touched on, they haven't been helped with their injuries. Calvert-Lewin's missed large portions of this season. Richarlison's missing time as well. Those are their two main goal getters. And it's a team in transition as well. We saw players being brought in by Rafa Benitez in the form of El Ghazi, who was clearly a Rafa player, and they go and sack Rafa 2 or 3 days after bringing him in. They go and sell Luca Digne, who's a French international, someone who clearly get on Rafa Benitez, then sack Rafa like a week after that. And it seems like there's no forward plan at Everton. Before they appoint a manager, I think they need to appoint a director of football, somebody who's actually going to take charge. Because some of the decisions have been very, very puzzling at Goodison Park over the last maybe 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, they spent a lot of money. They spent a lot of money over that time. Yeah,
they spent so much money, and you don't know where that money's gone. Obviously, they've got a litany of stars that maybe need to perform at a higher level, but you can't really point a finger to where Everton can necessarily improve. And a young manager like Wayne Rooney coming in halfway through the season, I'll just caution against that, because it could go wrong. You don't want to be the man to take Everton down, because I think there's a stark possibility of that this season.
Do you know what? I feel like if he was to come in, I don't feel like the expectations are extraordinarily high for this season. Wayne Rooney can come in and his objective is essentially to not get relegated. I don't think many Everton fans right now are going to have aspirations to finish in the top 6, top 8, especially at this point of the season when we're over halfway through the season. The expectations of Everton fans will be to stay in the league and then build on it going forward. So very, very similar to how Frank Lampard came in at Chelsea. They had the transfer ban, and there wasn't really a whole lot of expectations on him to really excel and do really, really well in the job until maybe his second season. I feel like it's a very similar scenario to this, really, and there's no better opportunity for Wayne Rooney to come in. It's similar to Gerrard. Gerrard coming in at Aston Villa. There wasn't an extraordinarily high expectation on him then. They were on a bad run of form, maybe 4 or 5 losses in a row, but obviously he's come in, rejuvenized the squad, and they're doing really well now. I think it's a great opportunity for him to come in. Even, they're not going to get relegated, because there's 5 teams at least worse than them in the Premier League currently, on worse form, I'd say. Not on worse form. Not on worse form. Let's put that, because they are on extraordinarily bad form. But there's so many teams in this league that are worse than Everton, that Everton are just not going to get relegated. And Wayne Rooney coming in, he's got keys to the kingdom for Everton, so to speak.
I feel like though, with Everton, they kind of need to redefine where they're at, because if you look at when Roberto Martinez first got sacked, they were 12th in the table, and they sacked a manager who was 12th in the league. And so I feel like Everton fans may have a misconception about where they stand in terms of Premier League football. Yeah, granted, there are 5 teams worse than them in the Premier League, but I don't think there's many more than that. And so they are a bottom of the half-table team at the moment. There are clearly 10 teams in the league that are better than them, but Everton fans expect way more than being delivered. Where was Rafa when he left Everton? 15th, 14th in the table? That's where Everton really and truly should expect to be. There are teams that spend more money. There's teams that have been better run, have got better ownership groups, and that's why Everton are where they are. So I feel like before Wayne Rooney comes in, fans need to actually realign their expectations in terms of where they expect Everton to finish, or where they expect Everton to be in the round at the end of the season. Because if you look at Aston Villa, they have clear goals. And Gerrard, I know that you said that there wasn't pressure on him, but Aston Villa, in terms of the amount of money they spend, in terms of how rich their owners are, they want to finish in the top half of the table this season, and next season push for a top 7, top 8, maybe even top 6 place. So Everton aren't there at the moment; they're in flux at the moment. And maybe, like you say, this is the first time for Wayne Rooney to come in and maybe steady the ship. But again, I'll just caution against it, because I think they're on the slide at the moment. They could be in danger of getting relegated.
I totally agree. I mean, so who's your pick to come in then, Quakes? Like, let's round this up.
It's such a difficult one. I'd say probably give it to Duncan Ferguson until the end of the season, and then see where you're at. He's a manager that he's a prospective manager, but maybe needs to be given an opportunity. And And again, if you're a manager of like Roberto Martinez is going to be managing Belgium in the World Cup at the end of this year, so I don't understand why he'd come to join Everton at this point of the season. So I would say give Duncan Ferguson till the end of the season and see where you're at. I think he's good enough to keep them up in the division. He kind of knows the players, he knows the squad, and you always get a new manager bounce. But in the summer, maybe it'll be time for Wayne Rooney to come in. Maybe it'll be time to have a conversation with Frank Lampard. There's so many more options and better options in summer as opposed to midway through the season when you're trying to rectify what has previously gone wrong.
If you're, if you're the hiring manager at Everton, do you approach Brighton and try and have a conversation with Graham Potter?
He's always a man linked with these jobs. But if reports are to be believed, he turned down Spurs in the summer. So if he's turning down Spurs, I can't see how Everton are going to attract him, especially halfway through a season. Brighton have way higher aspirations than Everton at the moment, which is crazy. I know Everton might be able to provide them a bigger budget, but Brighton are a better team, a more established Premier League team as things currently stand in terms of their risk of getting relegated. I know they've struggled a little bit after having a strong start to the season. But if you're Graham Potter, you'd be insane to leave Brighton halfway through a season to join Everton. But if it's a conversation to be had in the summer, they'd have to give him massive assurances in terms of budget, in terms of job security, to ensure that he is not stepping into a minefield, he's stepping into a project where he can actually succeed going forward.
Yeah, that's a great point. And, when you really dial it down and think about it, Brighton probably are a better team. But when you look at the Everton squad, and as you highlighted earlier, there's a litany of players. There are a host of players that would walk straight into that Brighton team, but ultimately Everton aren't playing as a team right now. And I suppose that's reflective of how they're playing and where they are in the league currently. So for me, it's Wayne Rooney. For Kwaku, it's Mr. Duncan Ferguson. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. And in the meantime, where can they find us, Quakes?
You can find us on all good streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, the lot. And we're on Instagram. It's at We Talk Football Podcast. On Twitter at WTF Podcast 90. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel. We'll be back with more content very, very soon.
Cheers, guys. Catch you next time.